The church is open for 45 hours of church this week. Whoa. So there will be lots of times to pray. I know that sounds like a lot, but each of these days is all about entering in, Christ's death and resurrection. And so the first thing, tonight, we are coming back here downstairs and we are having bridegroom matins. This is a beautiful service that is all about pure penitence and about each night is a theme. The first night is the fig tree that is withered. Then the next night at 7 p.m. we also have bridegroom matins. And it's beautiful with the Lenten Alleluias. That theme is all about Joseph and his faithfulness, even when he was absolutely destroyed and had no hope, and how God rewarded him. Then the next night, on Tuesday, we will also have bridegroom matins. And this one is one that if you're going to go to only one of them, come to this one. Because the theme of it is the sinful woman that anoints Jesus' feet. And this is the hymn that we sing, the hymn of St. Cassiani, who is one of the female hymnographers of this church, of the sinful woman. We'll sing, the song, singing servant, Kontakion of St. Gromados, Melodus, that kind of thing. It's all about that moment of coming to Christ with utter repentance and being transformed. On Wednesday, we will have a shortened bridegroom matins. We're going to do it 6 to 7. We're really kind of giving people a place to have prayer. And that one is all about Judas's betrayal. And that's the theme of it. And right after that, at 7, we're going to have unction. So anybody, please come, pray, get anointed, and get healed. Kind of thing. This is where we will take the oil of the church. And for anybody that's baptized, will be anointed with the service of healing. This is the service of the 7 Gospels. And we'll do that. A very popular service. And then on Thursday night, 4 to 6 p.m. is the Liturgy of the Last Supper. This is the day that we consecrate the host that is used for all of the sick for the rest of the year. This is a day of the institution of the Eucharist. So it's a very powerful service. We'll have a very light meal afterwards. And then at 7 p.m. we will have the 12 Gospel Matins. This is a really long service. This is 4 hours. But you go through all 12 Gospels. You go through all of the hymns of the church. You hear about Christ's crucifixion. You hear the hymns of today, he who hung the earth upon the waters is hung upon a tree. Kind of thing. This is the pinnacle moment of it, of Christ's resurrection. It is called the Matins of Holy Friday because it's all about Christ's crucifixion and passion on Holy Friday. It is the 12 Gospels or the Passion Gospels of Christ is the service. Then, so that'll be about 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Thursday. On Friday, at 12 to 2 p.m., we will have Royal Hours. This is a beautiful service if you want to come and just pray. This is purely meant to be a service if you just sit down and you pray. We will read through every Old Testament prophecy that talks about Jesus' crucifixion. So you're welcome to come. At 3 p.m. is the Crucifixion Vespers. This is where we commemorate the moment that Christ gave up his spirit on the cross. That's 3 p.m. exactly. And so that is where we'll hear the story of Jesus Christ's crucifixion, put his body down from the cross and into the tomb. At 7 p.m., we will come back to the church. 6 p.m. 6 p.m. on Friday. And this is the funeral service of Christ, the bridegroom matins of Great and Holy Saturday. This is where we will sing the Lamentations, which are incredibly beautiful, the Byzantine version of it. Every generation has, comes before thee. And do the funeral service of Christ and process around the church with his body and put it back in the tomb. And at that night we'll hear the prophecy of what does it mean for Christ to die. And finally, at noon, we will have the harrowing of Hades on Saturday. That is the moment of the destruction of hell. And that is where we will baptize people. That was where we will listen to the 12 Old Testament Gospels. We will baptize 10 individuals, and then we'll have the liturgy of St. Basil over the tomb at that point. And that is an incredible thing. That is really, Tolkien talks about the tide is darkest just before, it turns, kind of thing. And the night is darkest just before the dawn. That is the moment of the turning of the tide, of the moment of the dawn. And it really is the beginning of resurrection. That is the icon that we have of resurrection. It is the harrowing of Hades. It's the gospel. It is the feast of that Saturday. And then we'll meet again at at 10, sorry, I just have to confirm. 10 to 10:30, a group of people will be coming here and reading the Acts of the Apostles. In the old church, we would read non-stop from Friday all the way on to Saturday night. We'd be reading the Acts of the Apostles, Revelations, we'd be reading all of the Gospels and kind of listening to it, and people would be here and praying. We know that you guys are going to be exhausted, so we're only going to do half an hour of it. At 10:30, we will start the service of Pascha, as we said downstairs. And that's initially a little taste of Holy Friday for half an hour. And then we have the resurrection, and it's a procession outside with the light and things like that. Afterwards, there will be a giant meal. So I know that's a lot. Go to our website, look on it, it's on our calendar. We are going to do everything possible to allow you to enter into that resurrection, because that joy is not possible without kind of going into death. So that is kind of the schedule for this week. I know it sounds like a lot, but just think, most nights at 7 o'clock, if you make it here once a night, that's amazing. If you can't make it, come for Thursday and Friday. That's and Saturday, and the 2 services on Saturday. If you can make more, add the bridegroom add-ins on Tuesday. If you can make more, maybe add an unction in one of the other bridegrooms. Try to be as much as you can, because you will get what you put into it. And Christ will meet you where you come into it. So I really recommend, there is a lot of joy and salvation if you can enter into it. And that is why we do this whole service. The singers will be exhausted by the end of it, but we do this because we think that this is absolutely for our salvation.